how much did it cost Elon to get these surgeries? Again, not that it's an issue at all for him. He's like one of the richest people in the world right now. But, you know, I think if you estimate cost. Hey guys, Dr. Gary here. I'm a double board certified facial plastics and hair restoration surgeon, and I happen to have alopecia areata, which is why my head looks like this. So before you go and comment about, you know, the surgeon needs new hair and all this stuff, I do have an autoimmune condition, and we talk about it on the channel. So today's video is about Elon Musk, who is sort of like my idol, and you know, many of us look up to him and all the stuff that he's been able to achieve through SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, all the solar power stuff he's working on. It's really, and batteries, all this stuff, it's really incredible. So I hope to do this video justice with how I react to his hair and what I think he's had done, and I hope that it helps other people out there who are maybe considering a hair transplant or just curious as to how his hair looks so amazing now, considering how he looked back in the 90s, for example, right? So when he was with PayPal, you can see pretty significant frontal thinning and out into the mid-scalp. He was in his late 20s at this point. It looks like his crown was still maintained at this point, and he otherwise has pretty good thickness to his hair and pretty good density in the kind of general donor type of zone. I guess he got tired of this look and was trying to, you know, get some additional hair. He most likely was on medical therapy around this time or maybe soon after this time. My guess is he probably went with FDA approved types of treatments such as finasteride and minoxidil. That's the most likely thing. And then we see him in early 2000s, in like 2003, at age, say 32 here, and he has got much better hair in the frontal and mid-scalp. So could he have achieved this with just medical therapy alone? I think it's unlikely. It's possible, but I think it's unlikely. And I think in this interval, he had a hair transplant, his first hair transplant, likely with an FUT type of approach, which is the strip type of scar that comes from the back of the head, as opposed to FUE. At that time, in the early 2000s, that was sort of the most prevalent way to get a hair transplant, which is what with the strip approach. So I think he probably had a shorter strip at that time point, maybe about 2,000 up to maybe 2,500 grafts. Definitely made an impact. But when you look closely, there's still kind of a lower density sort of appearance at the frontal scalp, and it just doesn't look like it fits in with his donor zone in terms of the density of hair. Then it looks like he went through another hair transplant, again with FUT, and this is the time that I think he had that really kind of long scar type of strip procedure. And you can see that there are a couple of examples that we're going to flash up here, where you can see from a profile view there's clearly a sign of a scar kind of starting all the way up here at his frontotemporal angle and running down into the safe donor zone underneath his crown and to the other side. There was also an interview that he did on CBS that's really kind of showing that strip scar. You can just see the thinner hair in that area, and you don't really see any kind of thinness throughout the rest of the donor area. So I don't think he's had an FUE procedure. I think he's had 2 FUT procedures. So then after the second transplant, which looks like it was maybe around like late 2000s, maybe around 2009 or so, is when it seems like he had his second procedure. And then you start to see a much more robust frontal and mid-scalp with really solid density, almost rivaling his original hair. A really nice job. With this second procedure, because of how long they went, they probably incorporated the original scar in that second FUT. My guess is that he had an additional 2,500, maybe even 3,000 grafts to the area. So that is definitely impressive. And now you can see, I mean, he's working with a great head of hair. And I think he naturally just happens to have good fill into his crown, and I think he's probably still on medical therapy to help to protect the hair, his original hair. Because as I kind of refer to this in some videos, it's kind of like if you're not on medical therapy when you get a transplant, assuming you still have some pre-existing hairs when you get the transplants, it's almost like dumping sand into a bucket with a hole at the bottom. You know, you're putting in grafts and a bunch are spilling out. So it's good to be on medical therapy if you have pre-existing hair after transplants to, again, protect those hairs that are DHT sensitive, right? That is what I think went on, and that's why Elon Musk's hair looks as amazing as it does. I don't think he had FUE. FUE became more popular after about 2010, and he would have had a kind of a thinner look based on the number of grafts he had to achieve the type of look he did at the recipient area, and all of that FUE harvesting would have made a bigger sort of impact on the thinness of the back of his scalp, where in my opinion it looks really thick. It's just that he has that long scar. So that again kind of speaks to the advantages of FUT versus FUE. FUT, you can really get more grafts out of it than FUE over like the entire sort of lifespan of harvesting. Something closer to, say, sometimes upwards of like 6,000, 6,500 grafts, whereas with FUE you're looking at maybe 5,000 grafts, maybe 5,500, depending on your starting density and scalp size. So for someone looking to maximize the number of grafts that they get over, you know, the course of all the time that they can get these procedures, you really want to consider FUT. Again, a lot of my male patients, they don't want to do this because then they can't wear their hair short. And as you can see, Elon, when a camera hits him at certain angles, certain different types of light conditions, you can start to see that scarring coming through. You can get SMP or scalp micropigmentation into the scar, but it's easier to do SMP into FUE scars than it is into an FUT scar to make it look more presentable and sort of cover up the scarring later on. So again, I think knowing sort of what we know about Elon and how big he likes to go, right, with his companies, with like kind of putting everything on the line, I think he probably sort of went big and had 2 sizable FUT procedures that have again resulted in an excellent outcome. Really beautiful result, very naturally done hairline, just excellent work. I don't know where he went, but he obviously went to some of the best surgeons that you can find. And that brings us to cost, right? So how much did it cost Elon to get these surgeries? Again, not that it's an issue at all for him. He's like one of the richest people in the world right now. But, you know, I think if you estimate cost with his first FUT procedure, if you consider about 2,000 to 2,500 grafts, the top clinics, the most expensive clinics that, you know, have very strong reputations over, you know, the last few decades worldwide, I mean, they're charging upwards of either $25,000 for a case, no matter the size sometimes, or something like $10 a graft. If you look at that, I think he's probably spent close to $20,000 to $25,000 for his first surgery, and then probably something similar to that with his second surgery. So that'll put us at about, say, $50,000 for Elon Musk. He isn't going to feel the impact of that cost, but for most everyone else, I mean, it's a big expenditure, and you really want to make sure that it's worth it, right, after going through all that and spending all that money. So for him, it clearly was. Everyone has to kind of make their own decisions on surgery, if surgery is right for them, and my videos are really meant to just educate the public so you can make an informed decision, whether that's for surgery or against surgery. So hopefully you guys found that helpful. If you enjoy the content, please make sure to like the video, comment below. If the comments are positive, great. If they're not, we'll accept that too. If they're very rude, we'll delete them.
And we'll delete you from the channel.
So please be considerate and be respectful of everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content, okay? Thanks guys, have a good day.